This hunter could not get past a frozen, half-dead wolf. You won't believe what happened next. Nikolai Volkov had always enjoyed hunting. He was very skilled at it and had many trophies which showed off just how good of a shot he actually was. He had been taught by his father, who had also been taught by his own father. As the man grew older, he soon went off to college to learn how to be a mechanic. However, not long after graduating and getting a job, Nikolai was made redundant. With no job to pay him a wage, Nikolai began to grow desperate. He had a wife and a young son that he needed to support, but without any money coming in, he had no way to put food on the table. Or so he thought. It was then that the man remembered all of the hunting lessons that his father had taught him all those years ago. With no choice, Nikolai began to hunt for food. After a few years of doing this, Nikolai was finally able to find another job. However, during this time, his wife decided to leave him, claiming that she could look after herself and their son much better on her own. Nikolai was sad to see her go, but even sadder to lose his son. The two had created a very strong bond in the time that Nikolai had been unemployed, and his son Leo had even started to express an interest in hunting. But there was no changing his wife's mind, and before long, she and Leo had moved to live closer to the city where she hoped to find a better job. The years went by, and Nikolai and his wife had worked out a schedule so that the man was able to spend quality time with his son throughout the year. Each time that Leo would go and visit his dad, they would always go out into the forests where Nikolai would teach Leo how to track and hunt. One year, Nikolai decided to go out into the woods by himself to see what he could find. The man was walking through the small village that he lived in. He was heading out on another hunt. However, this time he was trying a route that he hadn't been on in a while. The only problem was that this route would take him to the other side of the village and over a little river before it would get to the forest. Not one to be discouraged from doing what he wanted to do, Nikolai set off on his journey. He finally made it to the small river, which he was thankful to notice had frozen over due to how cold it was. But as the man made to walk across the ice, he noticed something strange near the bank on the other side. It looked like a hole in the ice, and a fairly large one at that. But what made it? Curious to know what it was, Nikolai cautiously approached the hole, only to notice a wolf half sticking out of the water. It was obvious that the creature had been stuck for quite a long time, as a new layer of ice had already started forming around the poor, stuck creature. At first, Nikolai couldn't make out if the wolf was alive or dead, as its head was resting on the ice and its eyes were closed. But as the man got closer, the wolf slowly opened its eyes to look at Nikolai. The man recognized that the animal was exhausted and clearly half frozen, but he didn't know what to do. At first, Nikolai thought that he should just leave the animal. After all, it was simply nature taking its course, and something that he thought he should not interfere with. But just as he was about to walk away, the wolf let out a tiny, pathetic whine, as if asking for the man's help. Upon hearing this noise, Nikolai knew that he couldn't just leave the wolf to its fate. With no better option, the man quickly walked up to where the wolf lay, grabbed the scruff of its neck, and hauled it out of the water. It took all of Nikolai's effort and energy, as not only was the wolf itself heavy, but the water that had soaked its fur was weighing it down further. Once it was free, Nikolai quickly let go of the animal and backed off a few feet before leveling his gun at the canine, just in case it tried to attack him. But the wolf was too exhausted to move its paw, let alone jump up and attack. With the wolf now out of the water, Nikolai believed that he should leave it to fend for itself. But as the man watched the half-dead animal shiver where it lay, he knew that if he left it then, it surely wouldn't survive the night. Not knowing what else to do, the man cautiously approached the canine, speaking calmly the entire time about how he wanted to help it. The wolf pricked its ears up, clearly listening to the man. It was content to let him do what he wanted. Seeing that the animal wasn't going to hurt him, Nikolai carefully lifted it into his arms and began to walk back towards his home. Once back at his house, Nikolai made sure to build up a large fire in the hearth before laying the wolf right in front of it. To try and get the animal to warm up further, the man even put an extra blanket on top of the wolf. After a few hours, the creature seemed to stop shivering and actually perked up a little bit. Seeing that the wolf was starting to get its strength back, Nikolai then made sure to give it some water and some leftover meat that he had been storing in his fridge. The wolf ate the food as quickly as it could, and once satisfied, it lay back down in front of the fire and fell asleep. The next day, Nikolai awoke to hear a scratching at his front door. The man opened his bedroom door, only to see the wolf up and about and pacing by the front door. Seeing that the animal had regained its strength and that it was ready to return to the wild, Nikolai cautiously approached the door. Just like before, he calmly spoke to the wolf, telling it exactly what he was going to do and how he was going to help it. Once close enough to the front door, Nikolai opened it and watched as the animal dashed out into the snow. Before disappearing completely, the wolf turned back to look at Nikolai as if to say thank you before vanishing into the woods. Content that he would never see the animal again, Nikolai got back to his daily routine. A few weeks later, however, the man received a phone call telling him that Leo was able to come and visit him for a week. Nikolai was ecstatic. He would finally get to hunt in the wintertime with his son. Before long, Leo had arrived and the father and son duo were quick to get out into the woods. As he hadn't been able to go hunting on the route he had picked out last time, Nikolai decided to take his son with him and go that way. As the two approached the frozen river though, Leo became distracted as he found a set of hair tracks. The young boy followed the paw prints, which led him away from his father. All of a sudden, Nikolai heard a loud crack and a scream. He immediately began running to where the sound had come from, calling for his son the entire time. But as he got closer to the river, his heart stopped. His son was half in the water, clinging on for his life. And there, right next to him, was a wolf. But just before the man could raise his gun to shoot the animal, the wolf did something incredible. It grabbed a hold of Leo's jacket with its teeth and began to haul him out of the water. With the help of the wolf, Leo was able to pull himself out of the water and back onto solid ice. The wolf quickly ran off towards the woods, but stopped just before disappearing into them. With the animal out of the way, Nikolai hurried over to his son and began to try and warm him up. It was then, as the man looked up at the wolf who had saved his son, that he recognized it. It was the same wolf that only weeks earlier he had saved from the exact same situation. The man thanked the wolf, who seemed to understand what he was saying before it, once again, vanished into the woods. As Nikolai rushed his son home to help get him warm again, the man made a silent vow in his head. He promised never to hunt wolves again, as it was thanks to the wolf that his son was still alive. And even though he knew he would never see the same wolf again, he would be eternally grateful to all of the help that it had given him that day. What an amazing story! Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome tales.